There's a silent war happening inside you. Every moment, every second, a battle wages, not out there in the world, but within your own nervous system. A force dryer, thoughts, fuels your cravings, manipulates your attention, and either builds your legasag or leaves you chasing empty highs. That force aid is dopamine. It is the whisper behind your ambition, the engine beneath your goals, the illusion inside your addictions. It is neither your friend nor your enemy. It simply is. And whether it becomes your greatest weapon or your deepest prison depends entirely on one thing: who's in control. See, most people are used by dopamine. They think they're making choices, but they're reacting. They scroll, click, consume, drifting through life like leaves in the wind, thinking they're free, but enslaved by the very molecule that was designed to liberate them. But not you, not today, because the truth is dopamine was never the problem. It was the compass. The question was never, how do I get more of it? The real question is, what direction are you pointing it in? That's the secret Edison knew when he spent 10,000 failures chasing a filament that could light the world. That's the fire Carnegie fed when he walked into steel mills before dawn, smelling iron and vision in the same breath. And that's the same current that runs through you. It's not some mysterious power reserved for the few. It's your biology. It's your birthright, the perception. But here's the catch-up. Dopamine doesn't care about truth. It doesn't care about honor, discipline, or purpose. It only cares about prediction, about what feels like progress. That's why scrolling social media feels productive. That's why starting a new goal feels better than finishing the hard one you already committed to. That's why so many people drown in distraction while calling it ambition. Because dopamine is not about pleasure. It's about pursuit. It's the anticipation that fuels desire, the hunt, not the trophy. And if you don't learn to own the pursuit, to train your brain to crave what builds you, then dopamine will own you. It'll trick you into worshiping ease, not excellence, entertainment, not evolution. So if you want to change your life, don't just change your habits, change what you crave. Because the man who learns to crave pain in service of purpose becomes invincible. You think it's discipline that builds greatness. No. Discipline is the muscle. But dopamine is the flame. Discipline without desire burns out. But when you learn to wire your desire to the right pain, the right grind, the right rituals, then discipline becomes effortless. Then the impossible becomes innable. Think of Linkable. Do you think he wanted to face ridicule, civil war, internal demons clawing at his soul night after night? No man craves that. But he wired his dopamine to integrity. He turned his desire into duty. And that duty became history. You want to be great? Then learn this: suffering is not the price of progress. It is the signal of it. The pain you feel when waking up early, when saying no to comfort, when delaying gratification, that's not punishment. That's your nervous system being rewired. That's your dopamine being routed away from addiction and into alignment. And that's when something beautiful happens. When you stop chasing dopamine spikes and chasing dopamine cycles, you tap into flow. That's the zone every elite athlete, artist, leader lives in. That's when progress feels like purpose. That's when hard work becomes hunger. But first, you must detox. You must break the chain that modern life has wrapped around your reward system. Because let's be honest, this world is engineered to hijack you. Your phone, a casino, your apps, a dopamine buffet. The algorithm isn't built to free you. It's built to farm your attention. So take it back. Reclaim your baseline. Reset your receptors. Return to the rhythm of real life. Step away from the shallow hits and start building deep cravings. For mastery, for meaning, for mission, not every hit of dopamine should be avoided, but every hit should be earned. Earn it through effort. Earn it through sweat. Earn it through late nights and lonely mornings where no one claps, but your soul knows you're rising. Because in that space, dopamine becomes holy. It no longer pulls you away from yourself. It pulls you deeper into who you were meant to be. The world won't teach you this. The world wants you numb, distracted, consuming, comfortable. But you weren't built for comfort. You were built to hunt, to strive, to build pyramids of purpose with blood and breath. Your ancestors didn't survive ice ages and empires for you to scroll your life into oblivion. They survived for you to rise, to become the bridge between biology and legacy. And that starts with learning to master the molecule within. So now you wake up not because the alarm says so, but because your AVAS vision demands it's. You don't check your phone, you check your AS mission. You don't reach for coffee to feel alive. You reach inward, ignite your focus with breath, cold stillness. You reclaim the lost art of presence, of effort, of delayed victory, because dopamine, when trained, becomes a compass. And it doesn't point north, it points as forward. You begin to realize the goal is not to feel good all the time. The goal is to feel pulled toward what's goody for the long term, even when it hurts right now. And slowly, your nervous system adapts. You begin to love the pain of growth. You crave the sweat. You chase silence, not stimulation. You find beauty in boredom, because boredom is where breakthroughs are born. You stop asking, what's easy? And you start asking, what makes me das becomes? That shift right there is the revolution. And once it happens, everything changes. The gym isn't a task, it's a temple. Reading isn't a chore, it's reprogramming. Work isn't stress, it's strategy. You don't run from challenge, you run into it. Because that's where dopamine lives now, not in the avoidance of pain, but in the dance with it. And when others quit, you remain. When others retreat, you build. Because you've trained your brain to see discomfort as a signal of meaning. And that right there is the edge. Because most people will never do this. They'll live in loops, pleasure seeking, shortcut taking, bouncing from one novelty to the next, wondering why their lives feel hollow even as they chase everything that's supposed to make them happy. But not you. You understand now, dopamine is a currency, SC. And the only difference between poverty and power is SC, how you spend it, doc sex. You spend it on greatness. On the things that take months to earn, not seconds to click. On forging a body, a mind, a mission that becomes undeniable. And now you're unstoppable. Because dopamine doesn't just fuel pleasure anymore, it fuels AS principle. It pulls you toward the hard conversation. The extra rep, the book no one forced you to read, the moment of stillness you used to escape, now embraced, the work you once avoided, now welcome. You begin to build something bigger than a body, bigger than a business, bigger than a brand. You build a life so aligned with purpose, so tuned to your nervous system that you no longer need external validation. The reward becomes the rhythm. The process becomes the prize. This is the new power, not the ability to chase every feeling, but the ability to channel them. That is true freedom. And now, when you walk into the world, you don't need permission. You don't need hype. You don't need likes or followers or applause. You move with clarity, with calm intensity, because you've mastered the molecule that once mastered you. And people will feel it in your presence, in your pace, in your purpose, because this isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming deeply human, wired correctly, aiming true, hungry for the right things. And that journey begins every day. The moment you choose to pursue the thing that doesn't give you a hit, but gives you a home in your habits, a home in your mind, a home in the struggle that shapes you. So use dopamine or be used by it. But either way, your brain will follow the signal you set. The only question is, will you chase the path of comfort or carve the path of greatness? Because at the core of it all, there is as law of nature that no one escapes. Thus, what you repeat, you reinforce. And what you reinforce rewires you. Presri, you're not just forming habits. Your habits are forming you. And if you let dopamine reward distraction, you become distraction. If you let it reward excuses, you become excuse. But if you train it to reward consistency, challenge, discipline, then you become something else entirely. You become inevitable, not because life gets easier, but because you get sharper. Because when others wait for motivation, you create it. When others depend on hacks, you build the systems. And when others break from pressure, you become as pressure-proof. That's what happens when your nervous system becomes your SO ally, not your enemy. But be warned, this path is narrow. This path is lonely. This path demands sacrifice, because every high you refuse is a signal to your brain that you're choosing ZS, something deeper. You're choosing the slow burn over the quick hit, the real over the viral, the meaningful over the mindless. And the world will try to pull you back into comfort, into noise, into the loop. But you'll see it now. You'll feel the trap because your receptors have been reset. And now cheap dopamine tastes like poison. It's no longer pleasure. It's pollution. So you choose clarity, cold showers, clean food, hard focus, no shortcuts. You rewire your environment like a fortress, removing temptations, adding triggers for greatness. And slowly your biology begins to trust you. Your system begins to obey you. The cravings change. The voice in your head evolves. And that voice no longer says avoid. It says ars, attack. And attack the task, attack the fear, attack the weakness that once made you fold. Because now dopamine isn't about escape, it's about execution. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop chasing happiness, when you stop and you start chasing challenges instead, that's when real joy sneaks in. Not the fleeting kind, but the kind that wakes you up at 4 a.m. and whispers, "We're not done yet." The kind that makes your muscles ache but your soul rest. The kind that doesn't need music to feel like a war drum in your chest. That's the joy of alignment, of earned self-respect, of becoming as you're the architect of your own reward system. And when you get there, the world will notice. They'll ask, but there's no secret, but there's no standards. Only decisions made in silence while no one clapped. Only reps counted when no one watched. Only hours stacked when others scrolled. That's the hidden truth behind high performers. They've trained their dopamine like a S's laser, not a firework. And that's what you are now becoming. So what comes next? You go deeper. You simplify. You cut the fluff, the noise, the shiny distractions. And you build brick by brick, action by action, breath by breath, because the power is no longer out there. It's not in a pill, a screen, or a quick win. The power is in you, in your ability to aim your biology like a weapon. To us, harness dopamine as the fuel for your deepest potential. So let them chase the next app, the next rush, the next hit. You chase mastery. You chase the silence before the storm, the stillness before the sprint, the edge where most break, but where you break through. Because you've seen the truth now. Obsessed dopamine is not the enemy, it's the compass. And purposey is the true north, Vazy. So now, with every breath you take, every step you walk, every decision you make, you move with deliberate force. Because your compass is no longer broken, it's locked in, calibrated, aimed at something from far beyond pleasure. It's aimed at transformation. You've become someone the world can't predict. Not because you have it all figured out, but because you've trained yourself to move forward, regardless of mood, regardless of motivation, regardless of obstacles. You've tasted the difference between artificial highs and earned reward. And now you're addicted to something different, becoming the man or woman who doesn't wait for clarity, who creates it, who doesn't wait for strength, who builds it, who doesn't just want success, but wants the process that forges it. You no longer need dopamine to feel alive because you've turned your life into dopamine. Every hour in deep work, every rep under pressure, every uncomfortable decision made in alignment with your highest values, a stock it all pays you back. But now the reward is layered. It's not just chemical. It's a spiritual. It's the pride of keeping promises to yourself. It's the quiet certainty that you're sculpting something immortal, not in the world's eyes, but in the wiring of your own soul. And in that state, something rare happens. You begin to respect your cravings because they've been earned. You begin to love the grind, not out of masochism, but out of meaning. You begin to inspire not by shouting, but by embodying, because the dopamine is no longer in the finish line. It's in the stride. And when others reach the top and feel empty, you'll feel full, because you weren't chasing a trophy. You were chasing ease truth. So let this be the moment where everything shifts, not because a video inspired you, but because a other standard awakened in you. The standard that says, Troy, I will not be a slave to impulse. Troy, I will not be seduced by comfort. Troy, I will not build my life around what feels good right now, but around what makes me good forever. Because dopamine, the very molecule that traps millions, can become your engine of excellence if you just learn to own it. So every time you feel the pull to escape, remember the escapist isn't relief. It's cause delay. And every time you feel the pull to show up, to push through, to go again, answer it. Because that pull is sacred. That pull is your biology begging you to rise into focus, rise into purpose, rise into the identity you were born to reclaim. The world doesn't need more dopamine junkies. It needs warriors, neuro warriors, who've mastered their chemistry and rewired their craving for the fight that matters. So this is your edge, not pills, not shortcuts, just a single truth as use dopamine or be used by it. As that the choice is yours. And it begins right now, not tomorrow, not after one more scroll. Ask now. Because greatness waits for no one. And neither does dopamine.